A couple of days ago, Latin America watched the worst display of discrimination against a minority group when in the Chilean city of Iquique, many Chileans decided to grab the belongings of Venezuelan migrants and refugees and throw it to a pit fire. This has been a very controversial situation that has a lot of people expressing different opinions. So here in Newsweek, we'll try to be quite balanced and quite truthful, especially in these kind of delicate topics. First of all, we need to get back to the beginning. Everything started since, of course, the Venezuelan migrant and refugee crisis started, and the Chilean government decided to essentially to open its doors to Venezuelans. This was quite helpful for the Venezuelan migrants and refugees since they were able to regularize their migrant situation in Chile, and things were working well to that point. The thing was that the number of Venezuelan migrants and refugees started to grow, and the Chilean government essentially decided to execute some different restrictions in order to stabilize the situation. Once this happened, it wasn't easy for Venezuelans to fly to Chile. So what many Venezuelans did was to enter illegally through the Chilean border with Bolivia. They went to Bolivia and they entered Chile to the city of Colchane, and eventually they went to the city of Iquique, hoping to get to capital Santiago as soon as possible. So on this part, everything started to go downhill from here, since they were the Venezuelan migrants and refugees who were in Iquique, they were living into deplorable conditions. So they decided, along with other migrants and refugees, especially from Haiti and Colombia, to take one of the main squares of the city and install there. This situation created a lot of tensions with local citizens, which were essentially claiming that insecurity were starting to rise, especially in that specific sector. Eventually, the local government of Iquique decided to get the carabineros, which are essentially the military police of Chile, to throw out the migrants who were living in that square. The problem was that same day, many people were starting to plan a march the next day to protest against all migrants. These marches were a horror show, because we're talking about some of the most discriminatory and xenophobic claims and chants, something that it is not exactly the common denominator in this region, in this particular region of the world. And in one point of the march, the protest, many people decided to act violently against the migrants. There were fights between the migrants and refugees and the people, and many of these protesters basically decided to, as I said at the beginning, grab their belongings and throw it to a fire. This is something unbelievably wrong, because we can't even think about the way these migrants could feel, because even if they were doing something illegally, this situation didn't deserve such a horrible display of violence and xenophobia. And the worst thing is that everything will get worse from here, and this situation that we saw in Iquique could get repeated in many other parts of Latin America, because the reasons that led to this migrant and refugee crisis will remain. After all, it is an undeniable fact that the situation in Venezuela hasn't been solved, and the widespread crisis remains. And the worst thing is that the Venezuelan regime is stabilizing. So this could be the first episode of an absolute horror show in the region. Reporting from Medellin, Colombia, Luis Orozco, Newsweek.